Hi, I'm Maggie Pishnashin and we're looking at watercolour painting. Today I'm going to show you how to stretch watercolour paper onto a board. We do this to provide a stable working surface that is not going to cockle and bend when you get it wet with water. Make sure that your paper is smaller than the board. You need to have a margin of board all the way around the paper. The first thing you have to do is to soak your paper, and the amount of time this takes will vary according to how thick the paper is. What's very important is that you have to make sure that the paper is equally wet, front and back, on both sides, so that it's evenly saturated with water. The reason for this is that as the paper soaks and takes up the water, it expands slightly. And the term stretching paper comes from the paper contracting when it's fastened down onto a board when it's wet. As it dries, it shrinks, and this is where the stretching element comes in. When your paper's soaked and softened slightly, pick it up by one corner and let the excess water drain off the bottom corner. So carefully place it on the board so that you have a margin of board visible all the way around the paper. This is very important because we need the board to keep hold of the paper as it shrinks and dries. This board has a sheet of heavy paper stretched on it, and because it's a large sheet of paper, there is wide gum tape holding it to the board. With a larger sheet of paper there are greater stresses, and therefore wider tape is a good idea. With a smaller piece of paper, narrower tape will do the job fine. What you need to do is to tear off 4 pieces of paper, 2 for the long edge and 2 for the short edge, without getting your reel anywhere near wet paper. The reason for this is simple. If you get this reel of tape paper wet, the whole thing will be useless and you'll have to throw it away. So keep your reel of tape well away from any of the wet areas. Take your tape, run it through the water, and most importantly, keep your fingers away from the wet glue side. Stick it down so that it's halfway on the board and halfway on the paper. This is quite an important detail and will help to make sure that your stretching process is effective and successful. So remember, keep your fingers away from the wet glue, put your tape half on the paper and half on the board, and make sure that the tape is long enough to overlap at the ends. So run the tape through the water, half on the paper and half on the board. Gently make sure there are no air bubbles under the tape. Once again, half on the paper, half on the board. Gently make sure there are no air pockets underneath it. And then this next section is really quite crucial. An old tea towel makes an ideal cloth with which to blot from the centre the excess moisture in the paper. Work from the centre outwards. Keep working in a circular direction, just blotting and mopping the excess water until you've removed the wet shine. This way you can be fairly sure that the water content in your paper and on the board as a whole is similar. You now need to put this board away, out of sunlight, away from natural light, away from heat sources, and to leave it flat. This will give you the best chance of the next day finding a beautifully, perfectly stretched piece of paper ready for you to work on. Good luck with it.